Hey, Michael J.
You know, Patrick, normally I sit down to record the Top Level podcast and I'm merely talking to a Pro Tour champion / Magic the Gathering Pro Tour Hall of Famer. But now I'm talking to a legitimate swimsuit calendar model.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you as well, but just to be, level with you, my modeling career started very early. I won the most beautiful baby contest when I was 6 months old. I was definitely, I peaked at 6 months, but modeling is nothing new to me. And this swimsuit calendar, being able to do the swimsuit calendar that we've got a link for in the show notes, with 100% of the proceeds going to the Trevor Project, I don't know. I thought it was kind of a blast.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Very excited. I'm super excited to be part of it. Tickled pink, which is, the color of my swimsuit.
Dude, your picture, major props, dude. Looking forward to starting the year off right with a little bit of Michael J. But we also are starting the year off right with some Kaldheim previews hitting early and often.
Oh, wow, yeah. Lots hit this week. Very excited to talk about all kinds of gods and planeswalkers and planeswalker-killing devices.
So on the note of both planeswalkers and gods, what do you think of Valki, God of Lies, a.k.a. Tybalt, Cosmic Imposter?
So this card just seems awesome to me. Like, legit awesome, right? So it's a Modal Double-Faced Card, right? The front side is a 2-drop that you would consider playing, I think, a lot of the time, even if it didn't have the other side, right? And the other side is an enormously expensive planeswalker. But, if you're in it for 7s, this is not a bad 7. And I think that, you're mostly in it for Valki. I don't know. What do you think, Patrick?
So to start with, let's look at Valki. 1 and a black for a 2/1 that when Valki enters the battlefield, each opponent reveals their hand, and for each opponent, exile a creature card they revealed this way until Valki leaves the battlefield. So in the space of Tidehollow Sculler, this is a 2/1 Tidehollow Sculler, but it can only hit creatures. So it is both, it is a little easier to cast, but it also has worse types. So far, we're talking about basically 1 less toughness and only hitting creatures. So a pretty big decline.
Well,
right?
Or 1 more power than a Mesmeric Fiend, right? Obviously still only hitting creatures, but Mesmeric
Nobody
Fiend
play Mesmeric Fiend these days, dude.
Wow.
I don't know. Sure, yes. 1 more than Mesmeric Fiend, but only hitting...
only hitting creatures.
Only hitting creatures. However, Valki does have this ability that you can pay X and choose a creature card exiled with Valki with converted mana cost X, and Valki becomes a copy of that card. So, obviously, when you hit small creatures, it doesn't really matter too much most of the time. But where this gets kind of wild is you can choose, and so if you look at their hand and you just choose something good, now the thing is it becomes more expensive the more expensive of a thing you're targeting. But if you just hit something where the body is the thing, instead of an enters the battlefield ability or something, then you have some sweet options for plays, and this is also an ability that you can do at instant speed.
There's a lot of interplay here, right? So one thing that I was thinking of is, when would you want to potentially play this card, right? If you just played Valki, okay, your fail state is it's a 2/1 for 2 that does nothing when it comes into play. That's not good at all. But it's not the worst. That's the bottom of what you can get, and everything above that is by definition better. What if you're playing against somebody and they are about to hit 5 mana to play their Baneslayer Angel? Whatever, some kind of pretty sweet card for 5 mana. You drop Valki right before they can drop it. You take their good thing, and then next turn you have 5 mana, and you all of a sudden you have a Baneslayer Angel. That's a pretty good kind of tactical sequencing you can do with a card like this. You don't have to play it on turn 2.
Oh yeah, totally. And the fact that it's a permanent transformation, it does sort of mean that like, you only have to pay the cost once, and while you could, in theory, get blown out for removal, you also have that ability to do it whenever there's a convenient window. And one of the nice things, however, is that once you transform, the theft is permanent. Because remember, Valki will no longer be Valki. Valki will be a copy of that card, and Baneslayer Angel does not have the text Valki anywhere.
That is very, very nice. Obviously, you can make a pretty potentially painful play for your opponent, right? If you just play this early, you take like maybe a 3 or a 4 drop, and then you just have this ability to win in combat or stifle their removal in the mid game and get yourself into that position that you're talking about, Patrick, where there's no more they can get it back thing. The other thing that you could do is there are some decks that are highly, highly reliant on particular creatures, like, an Emrakul, something like that. You can take that out of their hand if they happen to have drawn it. But what about, like, a Phyrexian Dreadnought? It's been a while since people Dreadnoughted, right? But I kind of love I'm imagining taking LSV's Phyrexian Dreadnought and then having a 12/12.
By the way, something else to remember is that the way that Valki is worded, it's the style of strangling, exiling a card where you can respond to the trigger by killing Valki or sacrificing it or whatever, or bouncing it, whatever you want. And so Valki will be dead, and then the trigger will resolve, and it'll say, for each opponent, exile a creature card they revealed this way until Valki leaves the battlefield. Valki will never leave the battlefield since there's no Valki in play.
Nice.
So I think that synergy, that interaction alone, ensures that Valki will have a home with in whatever the latest version of Rakdos or Jund sacrifice or whatever. Valki already has purpose there,
I mean, Valki is a legendary creature god, but you could sacrifice him on the Pyre of Heroes and see what happens.
True. But there is also this other option, Tibalt Cosmic Imposter. Tibalt Cosmic Imposter is 5 black red for a 5 loyalty legendary planeswalker Tibalt. As Tibalt enters the battlefield, you get an emblem that basically doesn't do anything, but it lets you do Tibalt's other stuff. It's when you can play cards exiled with Tibalt Cosmic Imposter, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to play those spells. So each of his abilities give you the ability to exile stuff of your opponents, and so that emblem you have makes it so that you can play those cards as though they were your own and with any mana you want. +2, exile the top card of each player's library. This is where the butter gets breaded. The fact that you're effectively drawing 2 cards a turn, huge. And at a +2 loyalty clip.
Yeah, I mean,
it's very difficult to kill.
Assuming you've got the mana to do that, right? So you're probably not going to be getting much action off of the +2 the turn you play Tibalt unless the game is very deep, right? But you are correct that a loyalty gaining ability that's it's putting like a ton of cards, like 4 loyalty, you've got like 4 cards already there.
And then the -3 is exile target artifact or creature.
That's nice.
Obviously, it's a very useful option. It's not very efficiently costed on the 7-cost card, but you love to have the option in your toolbox.
I think that this is probably pretty good, like in, sort of I'm punching you in the face, you're punching me in the face kind of games, where they have their big thing and you're like, all right, here's my 7, kill your thing. If you don't kill this, I'm going to cast your big thing.
Well, and one of the nice things is that if they get their Baneslayer out to duck out from the potential of you Valkying it, they just draw the Baneslayer. You can't make them discard the top of their deck, so to speak, right? So they just draw the Baneslayer and play it immediately. Well, you have the option to try to wait 2 more turns and Tibalt and actually just take the Baneslayer down the other way. And then steal it again. And then finally the ultimate, which only takes 2 upticks before you're in range for, is -8, exile all cards from all graveyards and add red, red, red. Now, notably, after you do this, it's not just a Yawgmoth's Will for yourself, and it's a Yawgmoth's Will for your opponent, and it's a red ritual. It's not just all of that. It's the fact that it keeps going for the rest of the game with all those cards are effectively extra cards you have for the rest of the game. You just get to play all the cards that either player have played so far.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting one. I think you probably want to do this when there is something that they've already got in their graveyard, or you've already got in your graveyard that you kind of really want. Because there's a huge expenditure of loyalty, right? Versus
what, man? You just drew 20 cards.
Yeah, but you drew 20 cards. You gained 3 mana, right? So hear me out on this. You can't cast 20 cards this turn unless you're playing like everybody's playing ritual decks or something. You're gonna get a nice return on your card advantage with the +2s.
You don't just have 3. It's not like you play this. You don't get to use the ultimate until you've ticked him up twice.
Oh yeah, for sure. You're gonna have 10 plus mana that turn.
You're gonna have like 10 land in play and 3 mana, so you're gonna have 13 mana. Dude, you're gonna be doing a lot of unbelievable stuff already.
I think you could be.
You're not only are you going to be like it's like way more impactful than Cruel Ultimatum. You also just have another 15 cards in case anything goes south.
So even if you lose Tybalt, right? Like you've got the emblem, right? So all those exiled cards you get to keep forever, basically.
Right.
Well, forever won't be very long because you're probably going to end the game.
Yes. Yeah. I think this ultimate is like very real.
Oh, I'm not saying it's not real. I'm just saying, like, strategically, either you're going to have, like, a big sequence that you can look at one or both players' graveyards and be like, oh, I could do this and this and this. That's pretty cool this turn. If it's me, I think I would love to just +2 them into next week. I'm satisfied drawing.
You're out of your mind. Dude, if you +2 them twice and you're at 9 loyalty, you'd rather +2 them again instead of draw 20?
Well, I guess it depends.
You even get to graveyard hate them and ritual.
I guess we're going to find out, man.
All right.
I first of all, ultimate judiciousness on this one. I am a buyer on Valki, God of Lies / Tybalt, Cosmic Imposter. I like this card a lot. I like both sides a lot.
Yeah. I actually like the pairing quite a bit too, even though I think that the first side is going to be overrated. But it's only going to be overrated by people who correctly rate the backside. And it's going to still be good, so I don't even know what it means to be overrated. I think they're just going to... It's going to end up being a role player and not the flagship of your deck. But maybe it is. I don't know.
I think it's hard for this to be the flagship of a deck of any format that I can imagine right now. But I could see this being a card that you would want even in, like, Legacy, right? I could... Like, the more powerful your opponent's stuff... I think the better Valki gets. And the less likely they have just regular creature removal. So, like, people in Legacy play powerful things and not much creature removal.
And it doesn't go well for them if they kill it with the trigger on the stack.
No.
But you gotta remember, if they don't kill it with the trigger on the stack, if you have 2 mana open, then you can still just transform into whatever it was.
If it was small.
It's not like if it's a lightning bolt, you can switch into a Tarmogoyf and you're not even phased. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm a buyer on Tybalt. Valki, God of Lies. What about Alrund, God of the Cosmos? 3 blue for a 1/1 legendary creature god, and this is another double-faced card. So Alrund gets +1/+1 for each card in your hand and each Foretold card you own in exile. And a Foretold's that mechanic where you can like prepay 2 mana up front in order to get the card at a small discount. Sometimes a 1 mana discount, but you're paying 2 up front, so you get it 2 turns early.
Yeah, but, anyway, if that 2 might have otherwise gone unspent. I think that's
exactly
the thing.
Yep. So then at the beginning of your end step, choose a card type, then reveal the top 2 cards of your library, put all cards of the chosen type into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So, what do you think, man?
So before we get there, we have to talk about the other side too, right? Because this is also a Modal Double-Faced Card. The other side is Haka, Whispering Raven, which is 1 and a U for a legendary creature bird, 2/3, flying. When Haka, Whispering Raven deals combat damage to a player, return it to its owner's hand, then scry 2. I think this card is kind of weird. right?
Kind of weird. What do you mean?
Yeah, like 2/3 flying for 2 that can be a god. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And the fact that you can bounce it after scrying so that you can make it a god later when you have a ton of available mana, I kind of think that's pretty cool. I don't like that you have to do it if you hit somebody.
You're out of your mind, dude. What more do you want from your Hammerhead Shark, man? This card has like 9 different abilities compared to Hammerhead Shark and 1 less drawback.
Hammerhead Shark was such a killer. That was such a main deck card back then.
Yeah, you don't think this is?
I think that in the same way you criticize me for invoking the name of Mesmeric Fiend, Hammerhead Shark is in a similar zone. Yes, Hammerhead Shark was the bee's knees main deck hater back in the day, but I think like maybe I'm just completely off base here. I think it's great that you can return as your hand and make a god. I just hate the fact that you have to.
Dude, wouldn't a 2/3 flyer with no other abilities for 2 be way too much?
I mean, it doesn't have no other abilities. It also scries too.
Right. I'm just saying that, like, if it didn't have this bounce drawback, it would be just just recently people have played 2/1 flyer with a drawback for 2.
Yeah.
So why would you want a 2/3 flyer with like 7 other abilities to not have a drawback?
I think it's kind of hilarious that I'm saying this because every week I'm the one who's like, well, you got to remember that 1/3 for 2 is highly playable in some formats. So I guess I'm the crazy one. Speaking of being the crazy one, I guess if you've got like 1 or 2 ravens on your shoulders and you give up one of your eyes to hang from a tree, you get to be all run god of the cosmos, and he's very wise. So he's like a mega marrow, right? That's the thing. He's got like regular sort of marrowness, and then he's also got foretell marrowness.
And he's got +1/+1 up front.
Oh yeah.
And you're drawing cards pretty fast, including the turn you play him. Like you play him and you just name creature, or you name
land,
instant.
Right?
Well, you could. It depends if you just want to name instant. Dude, instant's pretty nice. Do you really just need 2 more land? Why don't you just name instant, man?
Oh, I don't know. I just wanted the bulk. I was thinking about how to get more body on him.
Name instant. I guess you could just name land, but the thing is, dude, this guy has interesting options with double-faced lands.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
If you just name creature, you can get your cake and eat it too.
That is an outstanding capability of this card. I think this card is less exciting than Valki, but I still think that it's going to see some homes. It seems pretty solid to me.
It's okay. I think it's at a rough spot. Even though this card would be amazing in a million formats, they've just got so many busted 5-cost cards. And as far as 2-cost cards go, that card's fine, but there's a million other things too. So I'm medium on Alrund, but I'd love to live in the world where, although I don't know, maybe I wouldn't, because I think this card's going to snowball so hard whenever it's good. So yeah, I'm put me down for medium.
So here's
medium
the thing.
On the south side of medium.
I think I'm about at the same place. This card doesn't have the right parameters for the kind of card that, like an Aeon Chronicler, or more recently an Commence the End Game, or even a Shark Typhoon, where you have like a bulky thing that can draw extra cards against other control decks, because you actually have to resolve this, right? So I think like the bird part is kind of cute because it has a high likelihood of resolving against those kind of decks, but then it just gets countered when you try to make it big. I think that's its biggest downside. It just doesn't have the unstoppability while drawing cards that some of those other options over the years, and multiple are legal now, right, have.
So on the note of drawing cards, there's a foretell card draw spell, Behold the Multiverse. 3 and a blue, instant, scry 2, then draw 2 cards. So Glimmer of Genius, but instead of 2 blue, instead of 2 energy, it has foretell 1 and a blue. During your turn, you may pay 2 and exile this card from your hand face down, and then cast it on a later turn for its foretell cost. Now, this isn't just strictly better than hard casting it, because remember, if you foretell it, you can only cast it on a later turn for its foretell cost. But the nice thing here is that you hold up 2 for your negate or essence scatter or whatever, and then if they don't play something, you can just make an installment payment, and now your Glimmer of Genius is 50% off. Even if you never get the foretell spot, you can just play it as a Glimmer of Genius, which saw a lot of play in decks with no energy.
Yeah, I think this card is great. I think like if you're in a situation where you just have 4 mana, right? You can just do the foretell, and then at the end of their turn, you can finish the payment like you could have if just a regular Glimmer Genius, or you can have countered them like you said. Or if you have to do that, you have the same option in future turns, right? Like I can on turn 4 do this, leave up 2, don't cast the Behold the Multiverse, because if I'm going to do that, then I'm kind of shields down for a second. They can do something. I just don't do that. Then next turn, on turn 5, I can use 2 mana to do the draw and still leave up my negate. So I think that seems pretty cool to me. Plus, you could just straight Glimmer them, like you said.
I think this card's a slam dunk, personally. I just think it's like a better Glimmer of Genius, you know?
I fully agree. I mean, in non-energy decks, yes, this is a slam dunk.
I think, well, in energy decks specifically, Glimmer would be better, I guess, in some circumstance, but there aren't that many formats where Glimmer of Genius and energy are legal with Behold. I do think that it's possible that Behold is still better in an energy deck, but it depends on how bad you want the energy.
Trying to remember when I was suckling at the approach of the Second Sons, if I had any energy in my deck, or if I was just glimmering for that was it.
But there is another card draw spell this week. Well, Behold the Multiverse is just the easiest layup in the world. This card is for sure good. One that's a little more exotic is the Glimpse the Cosmos. 1 in a blue. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put 1 of them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So right out the gate, it's it's like Shimmer of Possibilities, except you look at 3 instead of 4. So 1 in a blue, look at the top 3, put 1 in your hand and 2 on the bottom, right? But as long as you control a giant, you may cast Glimpse the Cosmos from your graveyard by paying blue rather than paying its mana cost, just a single blue. And if you would cast Glimpse the Cosmos this way, and it would be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. So if you play Glimpse the Cosmos while you have so basically you get that, 3/4 of a Shimmer Possibilities out the gate. But then from then on, you effectively just have this 1 mana flashback to do it again. You just need to play a giant. And even if your opponent's going to kill the giant, you can play the giant, and then as long as it didn't create a trigger, you can just play Glimpse for 1 mana before they can even try to kill the giant.
I can think within, I don't know, not 12 months at this point, but I mean, I won one of those store qualifiers playing the card Shimmer of Possibilities and Bone Crusher Giant in the same deck, right? This is only a little worse than Shimmer, and it would be a lot better in next to Bone Crusher Giant, which conveniently will still be legal when the Cosmos enters Standard. Granted, you're not going to have Fires of Invention, but I think this card is a slam dunk in a deck that has even just 3 or 4 giants, right? Like the front half isn't that bad.
I think it's a slam dunk if you have 2 different giants that you're playing 4 copies of. Are you saying if literally Bone Crusher Giant's your only giant,
I'm saying
slam dunking it?
Literally, I have 3 Bone Crusher Giants in my deck, but I'm blue and red. Wow. I would strongly consider playing Glimpse the Cosmos.
I would then play a 4th Bone Crusher Giant if you have a Glimpse. But
I have never played 3 Bone Crusher Giants in my life, so you're probably ahead.
I think you have to have 2 giants before this card becomes like assumed to be good. 2 sets of giants, and I think that if you have 10 giants, it's such a slam dunk, even in powered formats. Like I think this card's really, really good if you have 8 to 12 giants in your deck, even if you're playing something powerful.
I think it's really good. I agree. There's a card drawer that I'm not sure is good at all, but it might be good. It's mythic. What do you think of Nico Aris, new Planeswalker? It's X, white, blue.
Trying to evoke that stroke of genius, or rather, I guess, the Sphinx's Revelation vibe.
Yeah. So it's a 3 loyalty Planeswalker Nico. When it enters the battlefield, create X shard tokens. So you can cast it for 3 and get 0 shard tokens, right? Cast it for 17, get a couple, dozen plus shard tokens. Then it has the following abilities. +1.
Well, first, the shard tokens, as a note, by the way, are enchantment tokens. They're not artifacts. They're enchantment tokens. That's cool. 2 and sacrifice this enchantment to scry 1, then draw a card. So you get 2 mana ops. Each one can just convert into a 2 mana opt. But for free, a cantrip opt.
Then you get +1. Up to 1 target creature you control can't be blocked this turn. Whenever that creature deals damage this turn, return it to its owner's hand. -1, Nico Aris deals 2 damage to target tapped creature for each card you've drawn this turn. Then
which synergizes with the shards.
Yep. If you've drawn multiple cards, you can do lots of damage. At -1, create a shard token. How do you feel about Nico Aris?
So if we just look at the base case where you don't kick the X, you just spend 3 mana. 3 mana Planeswalker is pretty good in a lot of circumstances anyway. I'm also suspicious because it looks exactly like the type of thing where it's like, oh, this conveniently can make it so that Nico can die to eliminate. But as far as the actual gameplay impact, it's like, so how good is up to 1 target creature you control can't be blocked, and when it deals combat damage to a player, returns to its owner's hand? Well, that is not that good of an ability. However, it can be very good if you build your deck in a way that has a lot of interest in battlefield triggers, right?
Yeah, 187 guys is got trinket mages or something.
And then their -1 ability that does 2 damage to target tapped creature for each card you've drawn. Obviously, your opponent's going to often be able to play around that, but the fact that you can just drop this and immediately Necrotol a 1 or a 2 drop with no muss, no fuss, that's pretty exciting, right?
That is pretty cool. Yeah.
And then you still have 2 loyalty on your Planeswalker that just Necrotoled them.
Yeah.
And it's like the fact that you can just start creating shards. I mean, you end up having to spend a lot of mana that way if you want to try to actually realize the cards. But if you have any enchantment synergies, this card is a very efficient source of lots of enchantments out of 1 card. And then the fact that it scales up is at least interesting, right?
Yeah, I think this card is I was pretty negative on it when I first saw it, but I think it's okay. What I like about it, in addition to your kind of 3 mana Necrotoling thing, which is pretty cool, right? It's a nice little ability because your expectation is to get a shard or 2 out of it, probably. It's like Jace Beleren, right? You're just here's my 3 mana Planeswalker. I'm just going to grind a little bit with this thing. So, I was a huge Jace Beleren guy.
But Jace Beleren never did anything like this -1 deal 2 damage or more ability.
Oh, no. I
don't know. I'm in for that. The 2 damage or more, 4 damage or 6 damage, that ability is what gets me. I'm a buyer on Nico, no question. I'm a clean buyer for Nico Aris. I'm in.
Okay.
I think Nico is going to end up being good in the kinds of decks that you like to play too. I'm playing Elspeth Conquers Death, and I'm a blue-white deck, but I don't play that much Permission. And I really like Shadow the Skies, and I kind of just want to play with some powerful effects and tap out. Dude, Nico, if you just play Nico for 6, right? You've already got this, so 2 mana, sack this enchantment to scry 1, then draw a card. It's 1 mana worse than Opt, but it didn't cost you a card.
Well, it's also uncounterable, right? You have to have a stifle or something to stop it.
Right, and so if you Nico for 3 extra, you have this Nico in play, and then you effectively drew 3 more slightly overcosted ops that you can just buy later at your leisure, right? And it's not like the minus ability is a nothing, right?
No, the minus ability. I think you made a strong case for the minus ability.
The other one. Sorry, not that.
The make a shard.
Right.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm in. I'm in it for. I cast Nico for 3, and I just make 3 shards, and I live with myself.
Well, then you just make a 4th shard, because you can just make a shard at the turn you play Nico.
Sure.
So, like, I don't know, man. You just got an opportunity of all ops. Now that takes a lot of mana, but the key is so that first ability is tactically valuable for winning special battles and setting up special synergies, but you don't want to rely on it. And it is slow. And that slowness doesn't work great with how slow all this shard accumulating, spending mana, scrying is most of the advantages are very slow and grindy and have an opportunity cost that conflicts a little with other ones. And there's a little bit of a conflicted, I have too many options, I can't choose from them all. However, the -1 that deals 2 damage to target tapped creature for each card, that's so unbelievably perfect for the rest of the card in every way. And, plus we'll have to see what enchantment synergies exist. But I'm in for Nico Eris.
Just like the last 3 minutes, whatever, John, about this, I'm just thinking like that first ability, even you just don't get your Dream Trawler blocked by their stupid Gilded Goose or something, and then you put it back in your hand, and then you just wrath their squad. That's good, right? Like that's actually good.
Yeah, definitely, and that's to say nothing of just. Literally anything that enters the battlefield trigger, man. Like bounce your Skyclave Apparition. Now they get a token, right? You get the apparition back in your hand, and then you sweep the board, and you just still have an apparition.
Skyclave Apparition, the greatest white creature of the modern age.
Dude, bounce your Stoneforge Mystic.
Oh, you are a deranged maniac.
Bounce your Snapcaster Mage, man. I'm not even kidding about Snapcaster Mage.
Why would you be kidding about Stoneforge Mystic? These are all ridiculous. Yes. Dude, I'm in now. I'm in.
Yeah, okay.
This card is way better than Seraph Meter. Just they're like on the screen together for me right now. Okay. I like this one better now.
Okay, that's fair. So there is actually it's not a god, I guess. It is a legend, though. Cole the Forge Master, Dwarf Warrior legend, red-white for a 2/2. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, if it was enchanted or equipped, return it to its owner's hand. And it also has creature tokens you control that are enchanted or equipped get +1/+1. Notably, an uncommon.
This is a lot of synergy with nothing that's built in.
Well, are you saying with itself?
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously you could join hands with other things and make it good, right? I'm just saying, like, it's just a lot of the other cards we're talking about have a lot of the action built right onto the card. This one doesn't. So obviously there's some great enchantments and equipment that you could play that apparently only get buffed if they're on tokens, right? So, and at the same time, he has his.
Well, no, it's buffed one way or the other.
Yeah, right? He has his other ability.
When you buff the tokens, they get an extra +1/+1, and when you buff the non-tokens, they die to your hand.
Yes, I agree with all these statements. Speaking of, I think that the card border they have on this card is glorious. Looks fantastic.
So I want to make sure you're thinking through the implications here. Can I walk you through or can I, for your perusal, can I give you an equipment to consider with Cole the Forge Master?
I'm listening.
Shuko. Now, can I give you a non-token creature you control to consider?
Yeah.
Ornithopter.
So, Shuko is super cheap to equip.
0.
Ornithopter is super cheap to play.
0. So if you have a sack outlet, you get infinite sacrifices.
Oh. Yeah, I guess you had me at Shuko then.
Like, there's a parlay of some things that need to go on, but if you're playing Call of the Forge Master, it's not unreasonable to think that, like, I'll give you an example. If you were playing, so this would work with any zero-cost equipment, of course, or a deck that can get their equip cost to zero with, say, a Pure Steel Paladin or something, right? Pure Steel Paladin decks often play Ornithopter-type stuff anyway, right?
Just for the velocity.
And if you end up with anything that can actually give you a sack outlet that you're actually in the market for, that's a whole thing. But if you're playing a powered format, it's so cheap. The fact that Shuko costs 1, Ornithopter costs 0, and Cole costs 2, that's so unbelievably cheap that, I mean, yeah, if you add Goblin Bombardment, it's a 4-card combo, but that is also that you win the game, and you could do that very easily by turn 3. So we'll have to see what other cards exist, but it would not take that much. If there's, like, for instance, if there's a piece of equipment that a Pure Steel Paladin deck actually wants to play that lets you sacrifice creatures for 0 mana, for instance, the ability to move a piece of equipment to a new creature. You know, we've already seen equipment like that, where you can just sacrifice. So if you had... if you had something where it's like, oh, sacrifice a creature to move the equipment, and you're just moving the equipment from Pure Steel Paladin to Cull or something, then you don't even need the Shuko anymore.
Well, like Altar of Dementia, right? That card's actually legal in Modern.
Yeah.
That 4-card combo kills. I mean, that's a lot, but like, I'm just trying to think. The fail state on the other 3 cards is not 0, but...
Well, I'm trying to figure out how to get it down to 3 cards total. You know, like, for instance, if you have Grafted Wargear also costs 0 to equip. And so you can equip it, no muss, no fuss, right? And then all you have to do to move it off is move it to a different creature. Now, if you had 2 Ornithopters or Shield Spheres or zeros in general, then you win already.
Yeah, because
right?
they're going to sacrifice each time you move the Grafted Wargear.
But if you had a Pure Steel Paladin, well, that doesn't help you too much in that spot, but there's something close there. Here's another one, Piston Sledge. When you Piston Sledge, you can just... Its equip cost is sacrifice an artifact. So you can just equip it by sacrificing the Ornithopter.
You can sacrifice the Ornithopter. Oh.
Now, you can't. You need to have one more piece because you have to have something moving around. But if you've got the Piston Sledge on the creature, this is another one where you need 2 Ornithopters to just do it all. But
you could just play all these cards, Patrick, and then the linchpin is just Call. Right? So find Call, and then any combination of the other stuff's end up killing him.
So watch this guy. Plus, he's going to be like a minor, 6th man of the year. Well, not even. He's going to be like a bench role player in small numbers for some red-white deck that's like the fourth best deck in the format on 1 week a month.
Sounds like my resume.
Dude, speaking of your resume, what about Old Growth Troll? GGG for a 4/4 Troll Warrior with Trample and some other text.
So 3 mana for a 4/4 Trample. You got some other text, like you said. When Old Growth Troll dies, if it was a creature, return it to the battlefield. It's an aura enchantment with Enchant Forest you control, and Enchanted Forest has tap, add GG, and 1 tap, sacrifice this land, create a tapped 4/4 green Troll Warrior creature token with Trample. This card seems pretty awesome, right?
Yeah.
4/4 for 3 with Trample. When it dies, it becomes like a reasonably useful thing that you might want to use for legitimate purposes, or you could just make another 4/4. You're basically converting a forest into a 4/4, which you might have an excess of forests. Less likely you have an excess of 4/4s.
Yeah, and you're not even converting the forest. It's the wild growth, effectively, right?
Well, you have to sacrifice the land, right? Like, isn't that?
Oh, right. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. So it's kind of two. So you're sacrificing a land that made two, but you are also getting just another 4/4 trampler.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, in the mid to late game, like, the forest might be irrelevant, right? Like,
Totally.
But a 4/4 might not be irrelevant. I think this card is a slam dunk.
This card's messed up. This card's unbelievable, and mono green's already good.
Yeah, I just think, like, this might just go straight in some of those decks in bigger formats that have Land War Elves, right? That are, like, elfing out, Love-Struck Beasts and,
5/4 Steel Paladin.
Yeah, whatever. Like, just right on that team. And it's like a not bad enabler for the Great Henge. Not the greatest enabler, right? It's about 1 power shy for that, but that's not the worst sin for a card that is this fantastic in every other way.
Yeah, I think this card is just, it's really, really, really strong. Automatic 4 of staple, cross format.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely could be cross format.
Real deal. As a note, what do you think about this card with Opalescence?
Opalescence, that's the one where all of your enchantments are creatures, right?
Yeah. Well, each other global enchantment, so it doesn't work here. Each other non-aura. Is there anything that turns all the auras into creatures? Maybe not.
I don't know.
I don't think so. We'll have to think about it, but man, where are the listeds when you need it? But, yeah, dude, this card's dope. It's kind of, we'll see how much it plays. I hope it plays well. It sure is an unbelievable amount of rate, and man, I would not want to play against this with a red deck.
Speaking of the red deck got a hot one with the ironically named Frostbite.
Dude, this is such the type of card that you would just be so into, even though it's so medium.
Oh, I mean, back when I used to play in Magic tournaments, the last couple Magic tournaments I played in the modern format featured a lot of lava darts. Lava spikes, you say? Yes, also lava spikes, but also lava darts. So, dude, I mean, no doubt, man. I could replace those basics with
so much
covers.
Weaker than a shock. So this is a shock that can't go to the face, right? And in exchange for this, you get two things. First, if you control 3 or more snow permanents, it deals 3 damage instead. Sure. But you're still only hitting creatures and planeswalkers. And then 2, it's a snow instant for whatever that means.
Well, there's all those snowlands.
So what? Yeah, there's snow lands.
Oh, I guess it doesn't. Like, Scred isn't a snow instant, right? Scred is just an instant.
No, right. So we'll have to find out.
Scrying sheets, man.
That you could do. So I don't know, man. This card looks like if you're playing like some dedicated snow deck that cares about it being a snow instant, it's fine. But this card is like whatever.
Not good enough for modern.
It aspires to be fair. It aspires to be fine.
Yeah, I think the fact that it can't go to face is a big limitation on this one. I do think it's going to see play. I think it's a hot one.
Yeah, it aspires to be fine. And in some spots it will be.
All right.
What do you think of the actual return of the snow-covered basics, the full-on snow-covered basics, and then 10 snow duels that have both basic land types so they can be fetched up?
But they come into play tapped, right?
They do come into play tapped.
I think the return of the snow basics is obviously important. We've seen a bunch of cards that rely on snow, right? So it would have been weird, at least for standard play, if some of those cards did not return. So I think that's a cool thing. Minor stuff, availability of those cards at common for people who might not have had snow basics from older sets. That's all. That kind of stuff's always welcome. It's more inclusive. And the come into play tapped ones, I'm not sure. Like, we haven't seen Into the North yet, have we? Like, I was a medium Into the North guy back when it was in standard. This is obviously these are just better than the ones that we had previously.
Yeah. Yep. For the most part, they succumb to boil, etc.
Yeah, but they get a lot of other oomph.
They're massively better. But it's going to just be a function of how good are the snow-covered rewards,
So I
hope that there's something to punish snow, though, so that we don't just end up in the world where you're just priced into playing all Snowland instead of basics.
Yeah, I mean, I think Alan Wu recently said, like, in bigger formats, you're already priced out of playing them. There's just no reason to play them.
Except for sometimes one island for your gifts ungiven or whatever.
Yeah, but otherwise, like, the snow ones are just gonna help you with your Coatl and stuff.
Hopefully something new will get made in this set that makes that no longer the case.
So there's a card I think might be good, and then a card I think is very interesting to talk about that are related to each other, kind of.
Okay.
One of them is Masked Vandal. So this is 1 and a G for a 1/3, my favorite combination of casting cost and power and toughness. It's a shapeshifter. So we've been talking about cheap shapeshifters. I was like, what about a 1 casting cost one? This is at least a 2. But it has this other ability, right? When Masked Vandal enters the battlefield, you may exile a creature card from your graveyard. If you do, exile target artifact or enchantment an opponent controls. That's a pretty cool piece of versatility, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the exile a creature card from your graveyard obviously just makes this a little bit, like you have to be playing a critical mass of creatures, right? But it gets turned on pretty quickly. And the fact that you get this, a Reclamation Sage for 1 mana cheaper on a 1/3 is already interesting. But that it is a changeling is where this guy really earns his keep.
Yeah, like I was just thinking, I just wanted something cheap enough that I could reasonably cast Fire Giant's Fury, right? This is one of the first things where I'm like, all right, here's a window to that.
Dude, this is a goblin.
That's nice. It's a nice one.
Yeah, it's also an elf, man. Dude, this is a merfolk. Yeah?
Yeah. The fact Merfolk is nice.
Yeah.
Those guys get their guys killed all the time. That's what their job is. They kill their own guys sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a good one.
So I think that was good too. So here's the thing that I think is a little weird, but maybe it's a lot of possibility to me. Absorb Identity, which is 1 in a blue instant.
Yeah.
Return target creature to its owner's hand. You may have shapeshifters you control become copies of that creature until end of turn. Right, so I was not above playing 1 in a blue return target creature to its owner's hand. I have actually, embarrassingly enough, I have won 2 different Pro Tour qualifiers with that card in my deck, and only one of them was block constructed. Right, so one of them had an additional line of text, one of them didn't. Right, so this is literally just a card that I've played before, but in addition has this other clause.
I love that you're just starting happy about a 2-mana unsummon.
Look, man, I literally, the last card I played in a PTQ I won was that I bounced my opponent's 5/5 flyer and then attacked him to death. But I also had the Voyage's End one before, which scries. That's who I am. 1 mana unsummons are too good for me. Give me the 2 mana unsummons that may or may not have additional text. I think the additional text on this card is like, you could do something here. Like, if their stuff is good, like, this could be great.
Plus, where you really want to do this is if you're playing a Changeling deck. Like, if you just have a sufficient amount so that this turns into a 2-mana overrun, so that you're in a spot where you're just taking all your 1/3 Changelings or whatever, and you turn them all into
5/5 flyers.
Right, and you just kill them in one hit. I don't think this card's very good, but I think this card's going to be, isn't this so amazing in a small number of occasional fringe decks that may emerge. So it's going to be very satisfying for the people doing it. I don't think it's going to be very good in general.
I think that's probably fair. Caveat, I look forward to being one of those highly satisfied but medium unsuccessful players.
Dude, I would love to be one of those people. I would love it. I would love it so much. But statistically,
nobody's winning a game with it.
However, some people will, and you don't get to be one of those players unless you're willing to say, "Never tell me the odds," and just run it.
Dude, that guy married the princess and flew the fastest, starship in the entire galaxy.
Yeah, true. Spoilers, though. What about Blood on the Snow, man? So 4 black, snow sorcery. Choose one. Destroy all creatures or destroy all planeswalkers. Then return a creature or planeswalker card with converted mana cost X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the amount of snow spent to cast the spell.
I think it's great. So 6 mana Wrath of God, not the best. 6 mana Wrath of God that isn't dead against control decks. I'm not saying no. Upside potential on this is very good, right? You can just kill their really good things and then get back a 5/5 or something, provided you have enough snow.
Even if you're not trying very hard, it's so easy to get back Valki, God of Lies, right?
Sure, or how bad is it?
Who's a great follow-up to a Wrath?
Absolutely. I mean, how bad is it to just be all right, kill a bunch of stuff, get back an Elvish Visionary? You didn't even get anything back that was that good. That's still pretty good, right?
Yeah.
And we live in an era when people are playing so many kind of Mole Drifter 187 type creatures, even small to medium cost creatures. If you're going to kill a bunch of them, one of them gets you back some substantial, draw a card, other value, search your library, etc. I think you've done a lot. You've turned the battlefield around. You've got something. I think this card seems like it's going to be a popular addition to many decks.
Yeah. What do you think? This is better than Austere Command in context, and closer to the Akroma's Vengeance part of the spectrum, but not as good contextually, just because the competition's so high.
Yeah, I actually just think because of colors, then also because of context, it's hard to compare those cards. Akroma's Vengeance, a big part of its job was getting cycled, and another big part of its job was blowing up all the artifact lands that were in play. And this card does neither of those things, right? But at the same time, back then we were playing against everything from Astral Slide to Enduring Ideal. If you're playing against mostly creature decks or decks that have have a lot of planeswalkers in play, this is contextually outstanding, right? That's the thing. I think it is probably far better than any deck that I can think of that played Austere Command. I think that I'd rather have Blood in the Snow, though.
That's cool. There's an elf, actually. We mentioned elves earlier, but what do you think of Elvish Warmaster, the 1 and a green 2/2 elf warrior? Whenever one or more other elves enter the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token. This ability only triggers once each turn, and then has 5 green elves you control, get +2/+2, and gain Death Touch until end of turn.
I mean, that card seems pretty good to me, right? 2/2 for 2, or I'm listening. The 1/1 green elf warrior creature token ability seems like that's very good. Imagine you just had 2 Elvish War Masters, or you played 1 Elvish War Master into another Elvish War Master. That's a pretty good, trigger sequence. I don't know how often you're going to be playing that 7, because it is a 7, but if you are, your opponent is going to have a hard time.
Yeah, the fact that you have this looming thing coming, I think, is part of the advantage. But how many elves? Obviously, I think this card becomes pretty good if you're playing an elf deck. But, what if you're not actually playing an elf deck? How many elves do you have to play before this guy's good?
I mean, do I have shapeshifters?
Isn't very good. If you don't play any, he's just a 2/2 with a weird root wall ability that's not that good. But, other elves in the format include Wildborn Preserver, Tajuru Paragon, Rada, Heart of Keld, Oakham Adversary, Llanowar Visionary, And then there's some weird ones, Elderfang Ritualist and Ayara, First of Lochvane, but there's a few.
I mean, maybe this isn't a standard card.
Wildborn Tracker? Of course, I'm just trying to think of, I'm in for this card in, elf decks that are a little more powerful. But I'm just wondering, I think this card's going to show up in standard.
I think it could. Yeah, I mean, it all depends, right? If the format is all about kind of blood in the snow decks, Elvish War Master is not going to live very long, no matter how many 1/1s he makes. He's not going to be very useful. But if it's about fair creature decks, I don't know how big are his teammates and how quickly can you get to 7. In the abstract, do I want to saddle myself with elf creature type in standard if I'm in a green deck versus playing Old Growth Troll? Old Growth Troll, I'm in.
Troll. You could only use this ability once a turn anyway. I'm just saying if you've got 16 elves or 20 elves or something.
Yeah, I'm just saying I'd have to look at the list of available standard elves before I got behind this guy for standard versus the
Sadly, I already told you the list of all the good ones.
then I'm not sure that I'm a buyer. Okay. Clearly, I'm a buyer if you're going to play elves in bigger formats. This card is just really just a perfect addition to an offensive elf deck.
I think it's okay. I don't think it's actually even as good as it looks in powered formats, but maybe it's fine.
I think the fact that it has the overrun is pretty good.
It is, but they got a lot of overruns these days.
Yeah, but those guys, I think they just have their Gaia's Cradle or whatever, right? So they're okay.
How powerful of a format are we talking? Jeez.
People play elves in formats with Gaia's Cradle.
I know, and in formats with Gaia's Cradle, I'm not playing this card.
I mean, and they play fair. The thing that's crazy, they play fair elf decks, right?
I know, but they just have so unbelievable of options once you're allowed to play Gaia's Cradle.
Just don't forget, Patrick. They always have the Gaia's Cradle also, right? They can search for it in those formats.
So, dude, what about Seraph's Packmate? 3 and a green for a 3/3 wolf. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card, and you can foretell 1 and a green. Dude, why is this card so much better than Albino Troll?
I mean, why is this card so much better than Striped Bears?
Dude, why is this card so much better than Hill Giant?
This card is a lot better than Hill Giant.
Yeah.
This seems like...
Is this card actually good enough for standard, though?
I thought about that all afternoon.
Really?
No, I looked at it. I'm I think I would play this card. That's the extent of it. And I'm obviously, I'm not sure. Is it really that much better than Albino Troll?
Why would you obviously not be sure?
I don't know. It's better than Albino Troll. The regeneration on Albino Troll was pretty great in the mid game.
Better than drawing a card?
I don't know, man. I've seen a lot. I saw Dave Price not miscalculation in Albino Troll and then lose to it because I saw that happen in the Grand Prix.
All right.
So I do think that this card is probably pretty good.
In standard?
I think it could. I think it could be. Yeah.
What deck are we talking about? I want to know what this deck looks like.
I mean, what about other Wolves decks? Are there
other Wolves decks? Oh my God. Okay, you're cut off, dude. I look at this card and I'm like, man, it'd be sweet if this card was good. I don't know what that deck looks like, but maybe it is. Maybe it's just I just don't know what in the format lines up that way. So put me down for sadly I am a seller.
Maybe I could just call up Mike Turian and see if there's some sort of Mist Moon Griffin combination that can be played with this guy. Just a fair Mist Moon Griffin deck.
Combination Mist Moon and Griffin. Yeah. Anything else that there's got to be a couple that stand out to you, right?
Invasion of the Giants.
Well, we talked about Invasion of the Giants last week, but I think that Binding of the Old Gods, continuing in that sort of cycle, is kind of an interesting new option, right?
I like Binding of the Old Gods. I mean, it's kind of a slow version of cards that people sometimes played, but...
This is that 2 black-green saga. Chapter 1, Why You're Here. Destroy target non-land permanent and opponent controls.
Which could be a Planeswalker.
Search your library for a forest and put it in the battlefield tapped. And then Chapter 3, creatures you control gain Death Touch until end of turn.
I think this card's highly playable.
Highly playable?
Yeah, people played that one that was the instant speed version that did chapters 1 and 2 together, but had a much less generous targeting, right? Like this can kill an artifact, an enchantment, a planeswalker.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think that the reason to like this card is the combos, where you care that it's an enchantment, or you care it goes to your graveyard, or you care that you can bounce it, or you care that you can blink it. Once you talk about the combos, then the card goes from solid to good.
Highly playable, my assessment.
Highly playable. Good way to put it. Highly playable. What about Reflections of Lit Jara? 4 and a blue enchantment. You choose a creature type, and then whenever you cast a spell of that type, you copy it, so you get a token copy.
It seems like a lot of work.
Yeah.
I mean, these kind of cards are always like hatching plans or something. Like, if I do this and this, watch out. 2 turns from now, I'm going to do a lot of cool stuff. Cool.
Popular in Commander.
Might
Always
happen.
Dude, popular in Commander, man. Yeah?
I don't know. I've never played a game of Commander. Does that make me a heretic?
Well, no. I mean, you're not a hypocrite either then if you don't ever play it, but you are missing out on some fun. What about Rise of the Dreadmarn? 2 and a black instant. Create X 2/2 black zombie berserker creature tokens, where X is the number of non-token creatures that died this turn, on either side. And then it's Foretell black.
That seems pretty good, right? Like, you can set it up by foretelling, then you Wrath, right? You cast your Blood in the Snow or whatever, and then you just, for a single black, you can make an army out of whatever you mincemeated.
Well, and when you're rushing your opponent, you can just have one open all the time, and now you can just undo any other sweepers.
Yeah. I mean, I think the sweeper undo is, that's a very Caller of the Claw way of doing it, right?
Yeah, but this is just better than Caller of the Claw, right? Not just better, because you don't get the one up front, but it does have the foretell, and the fact that it counts both sides, there's a lot of, as they say, there's a lot of, good people on both sides of the zombie berserker battles.
There's not good people on both sides.
No,
but the other thing is, I think that because it has that sort of a final act after the attrition sort of thing, like you could just have this foretold, then get in creature combat and just send all your guys into battle or block all their guys or whatever, and then just recover for B.
Yeah.
That seems like I can imagine the disaster of 2 people both with Rise of the Dreadmarn, both foretold at the same time. Like, it's just going to be like a ridiculous situation. But that might happen, and I think that might be fun.
Yeah, I'm in for this card. I don't think it's like some automatic, the whole game is about this, but it's just so valuable for the people who need it. And I think it's going to be more about the Caller of the Claw action than a combo with your own Wraths, but we'll see.
I think that the Caller of the Claw action is what it was intended for, but I think that it's abusers who are wrathing that are going to get a lot of value out of this.
Dude, if you play this in a sacrifice deck, like some kind of Rakdos sacrifice deck, you can potentially get like oodles, right? Sure. Like, obviously it doesn't work with tokens that you're sacrificing, but like those decks might be built in such a way so as to not actually be overly reliant on tokens in the first place.
Yep.
And then one last card on the day, Varagoth Blood Sky Sire, a 2 black, 2/3, legendary demon rogue. And yes, there have been times in the past where 2 and a black for a 2/3 was good enough. But a 2 and a black 2/3 legendary demon rogue with Death Touch. And then when it attacks, you can pay 1 and a black to have target player search their library for a card, then shuffle their library and put that card on top of it. And you don't have to do it as an attack trigger. It's boast, so you can just do it at any point later in the turn. But basically, each time this guy attacks, you get to Vampiric Tutor yourself for 2 mana, but no life. However, if you're playing multiplayer, you can get busy.
I would be surprised if this was a big player. But I wouldn't say definitely not. I think it's not a good rate, casting cost of power and toughness. Although Death Touch, I think, it's a nice addition. I don't know. I think they're just going to kill it. Right? I don't know. What do you think? I mean, like, it asks for a lot.
Yeah,
right?
So
you don't just get to 5 mana Vampiric Tutor, right? That's not what's here.
All right, so here's some things about it. 1, it's a relatively cheap legend. 2, it's a demon. So if you're playing something in the space of like Kalia or or that Liliana's Contract card, it's another demon, and it's a fine one at that. Like, it can go find the contract. A 2/3 Death Touch for 3 is not actually a very efficient distribution of stats and rate and abilities.
No, if you gave it also flying and lifelink, it'd be pretty good though.
And then the Boast, if we were to compare, so a 2/3 Death Touch that attacked to loot would not be good enough. A 2/3 Death Touch that attacks to draw a card would be good enough. If you compare it to the card draw one, instead of drawing a card, you have the option to buy a 2-mana Vampiric Tutor at a time that is a 2-mana Imperial Seal of sorts, and it's not when you want it. You're not setting up a combo. It's when you've already attacked with your 2/3 Death Touch creature.
Yeah, it's awkward.
It is awkward. So I think that it's not that it's terrible. It's fine, but it's not fine. It's not embarrassing, but it is, I think, the only time where it's actually the time that it's most likely actually decent is if you care about it being a demon.
So I think that we're on the same page with this one, which is not impossible, not likely.
Agreed.
All right,
dude.
Card of the week. What do you got?
Well, first, are we going based on for me to play with, or
who do you love?
Well, what I love different than wins.
All right, give me 2 then.
Okay. Wins, Old Growth Troll.
That's a good wins.
Although, no, you know what? I'm in for Glimpse the Cosmos all the way around. Forget it. I'm selling it all. Glimpse the Cosmos. Off my Bone Crusher Giant. Soulless. Dude, my head's saying Old Growth Troll, though. It really is.
I mean, I think that once you just said Glimpse out loud, I'm like, oh yeah, Bone Crusher Giant was like already like one of the best cards. I was gonna name Valki. I like the backside of Valki so much, the new Tybalt. Yeah. I think like I'm just in for both sides. I think like neither one of those cards is embarrassing if the other one isn't there, right? Not great, but like you might play them, and I think together they are just good enough to be good enough.
Do you think Valky's going to win more than Old Growth Troll in Standard in the next 4 months?
No. I think Old Growth Troll is going to be a problem for people who can't exile things.
All right, awesome, dude. See you next week.
Bye.
Life didn't work so great. Tried to play Dredge, he's a jailer hate. Ghostly prison waiting for my untapped phase. Your core trapped in amber stasis state. Lost a lot of friends, got left